something in anime that no matter how many times you try to make sense of it, it just doesn't make sense.
The only question I have for God himself is why do anime-only endings exist?
Please go back and watch Denzel's original video, but I also have to ask that question. Because it always seems interesting to me, how is it that when you watching an anime that is based off of a popular manga, they always do things that are completely different than how the manga does it. Case in point, Black Cat. Now, if you've been a follower of mine for a long time, you already know that this is probably one of my most favorite anime ever, literally in the top 5 bracket. But to give a brief synopsis, it's about an assassin by the name of Train Hartnett who once go by his codename Black Cat. Till one day after he meets a woman named Saya, to where she gives him a new outlook on life, he decides to quit the organization that he was working for and decides to become a sweeper, aka a bounty hunter. And cruising around with his new friends, he goes around and tries to catch criminals in order to turn them in for the bounty, all while dealing with his rival Creed Diskin. And I know what you guys are probably saying, it sounds like the same plot to Cowboy Bebop, and yeah, it kind of does, but the similarities end with just the main characters. And one thing I noticed is the complete shift in a different direction that the anime took from the manga. Not just with the story and the shift, but the relationship between Train and his friends. Not to mention Train's overall character was completely different in the manga as well. While just like the manga, his character stems from the friendship that he had with Saya. Train in the manga became a sweeper because of Saya. And he did it because of the fact that this was a woman who for the first time in his life taught him of what it means to be free, to have your own will, to have your own life to live by. His goofy personality, his loyalty to his friends, everything that made Train Hartnett who he was, it was all because of her. But not only do you not get the same feeling out of the anime like you would if you were reading a manga like I was, the anime doesn't even end the same way. Now, to give you some context, the original manga ran in Shonen Jump from 2000 to 2004 and has 20 volumes of the story. This series came out a year after and only had 24 episodes, which not only did they cut out a lot of things or change them for the sake of the anime, but in comparison, the story in the anime just felt rushed. So then when we finally get the showdown between Train and Creed, it literally ends on the 20th episode. To which the showrunners was like, that's not enough. Let's have it to where certain members of the Apostles of the Stars, as well as the Chronos numbers, decide to come together in order to form the Zero numbers. Their mission? To kidnap Eve and use the nanomachines in her body in order to create this thing called Eden, to where they're going to wipe out the earth and recreate it in their own image. And yes, not only does that sound like a stupid Saturday morning plot that they just half-assed and threw together, and not only did the reveal of the real main villains is something out of left field and feels like something out of a Final Fantasy game, but the whole 4-episode Eden arc was just pointless. All it did was show is that the creators of the entire series literally just rushed through the manga, knowing full well that if they had to end the show on episode 20 instead of just like, panning it out for a 24 episode run, they had to make up a completely different arc that felt so half-assed that it literally felt like they just pulled it out of their ass. And you wanna know how bad this plot point was? Any person that I knew that literally watched Black Cat or read the manga can tell you that the last 4 episodes were entirely pointless. Not to mention it undermines Train's entire growth in story from the manga. When the manga first starts, we know Train is a bounty hunter who used to be an assassin. And as a bounty hunter, he's living his life to the fullest, and he does whatever he wants, and he doesn't take a life when it's not even necessary. And in each different chapter, we see Train going up against certain elements that comes from his past that he has to overcome. From the re-emergence of Creed, to the memories and the times he spent with Saya, the dark stuff he witnessed as a child, like the death of his parents, only to be taken by their killer just to be trained in the ways of using a gun to kill. Even his time among the Chronos numbers. As the story goes on, we get to see how Saya's influence had changed him for the better. How meeting her changed him from being a cold, heartless assassin to the most loving character that you will ever see in fiction. Like, this dude is so open and honest about himself, not just because of the fact that he's nice about it. That's just who Train is. He's no longer Black Cat, Chronos' deadly assassin. He's Train Hartnett, your friendly neighborhood sweeper. And all this art did, to me, was prove how little they cared about Train's character, or the story that the author wanted to tell, to where they just rushed through it and then they just did their own thing in the final 4-part episode. And don't get me wrong, I still love this anime to this day, but nobody can convince me that the final 4-part act was worth it or was even necessary. Like, even in his final moments with this battle with Creed, instead of trying to kill him, he did what Saya would have wanted him to do and spared his life. That shows just how far Train has come as a character, and it was all thanks to the friends and the people he met along the way. But apparently all that shit took a backseat in this anime just so we could see the great Eden arc that just... why? And again, the anime came out a year after the manga story ended. It had no excuse to have that ending. They have everything in place in order to adapt the manga the way that it was written. Y'all want to talk about the original Dragon Ball Z having fillers? The ending to this anime is the definition of filler. Just so unnecessary. But I want to hear from you guys. What's your worst anime only ending? Old, new, popular, least popular, whatever it is, leave it down in the comments below. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Seriously though, fuck this ending.